to the Property Frontline. Today I'm here with Scott Hochgesang. Scott is a new property specialist and we're going to be covering off the topic of how to maximise the use of grants and concessions in the current market. So Scott, there's plenty available, isn't there?
Certainly there is, Deborah. A lot of grants and incentives on offer at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that is, while it's a benefit, it means that there is a little bit of confusion out there because everybody wants to maximise their position, don't they?
Certainly, and the rules seem to be different for the different incentives, so it's quite a complex arena.
Yeah, and there is quite a few nuances that can certainly trick up a few people. So when people are just starting out trying to decide what their best approach is, where would you recommend they start?
Hi Deborah. Really, I think they want to start by understanding their personal circumstances and the requirements for each of the individual grants. So from a personal perspective, we need to see whether they're an Australian citizen because some of the grants require that.
So they can't be on a permanent residency?
Believe it or not, no. And if it was a couple buying a property, if one was a permanent resident and the other one was a citizen, some of the grants won't allow them to get the grant. It is, definitely. We also need to look at whether they've owned previous property and whether they've lived in that property. And the specifics are different across the grants.
And each state and territory.
Correct.
Yep. And their income levels.
And of course income level, because with the federal grants, there are income caps for singles and couples, so you need to fall under those caps to be able to get those federal grants.
Okay, alrighty. So now that we know that people have met personal requirements, what's the next step?
The next step in the process would be to look at price ranges of the different areas where they can buy properties and see whether there are any properties available in the suburbs that they're hoping to buy in. Often some of these suburbs are at higher price points around Sydney where the buyers there won't qualify for any of the grants.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting point to note that I've heard of people doing a lot of homework on purchases, you know, in places like Rouse Hill, etc., and then thinking that they'll still qualify for some level of grants, but there's a cut-off, isn't there?
Certainly there is, and it tends to be on its high mark, $750,000 in Sydney, and you're going to find suburbs where land prices are so high you can't do even a small 3-bedroom house in that suburb for that. Amazingly.
Yeah. Okay, and so do you think there's a sweet spot, or it would be for each different area? So
we typically work off 2 sweet spots, I guess. One is for the people getting the first home loan deposit scheme loans. That has a lower price threshold of $700,000, so we'd be trying to find them a property in the $650,000 to $700,000 range. From the grants perspective, the grant threshold may be $750,000, which means we'd be looking at properties between $700,000 and $750,000.
All right, okay. And if you look at that kind of level, it means that you'll get the most. Do you get the most of a deduction, or?
Yes, there are some areas where you can get all the grants on offer, but it's a very small percentage of all the properties available out there.
All right.
It's a little bit like finding a needle in the haystack.
Okay.
So if you find one, hang on to it and move on it quickly.
Yeah, okay. And so is that what you would recommend people do? So get ready, get organised. You can help people find the best option.
Worked out with your mortgage broker how much you can spend, both a target range and a maximum range you would spend for the perfect property. Then we would sit down and look at suburbs and areas and properties to see what were the best options for you. What we tell our clients is what's important is the net buy-in price of the property, not the price being advertised.
So yeah, talk to me about that. Mm-hmm.
So what you want to do is, if the property is $700,000 and it has $30,000 of grants attached and a $10,000 stamp duty concession, your net price on that property is the 700 minus the 30 minus the 10 is 660,000.
Yeah.
So with each property, we want to reduce it down to what the net price is, and then be able to compare property A to property B to property C.
Yeah, because some properties are being ramped up, aren't they? They're increasing the
Yeah,
prices.
we're seeing price pressure on the upswing, both with land developers and builders. Also, there are some marketers out there advertising some very, very big total grants numbers, and I think we need to dissect those into their components to see whether that large number is really true or not.
Yeah, okay. Alrighty. Now, you mentioned the first home loan deposit scheme, which we think was a fantastic incentive by the federal government, and that really was to help those people that had most difficulty getting into the property market. What's happening with that at the moment?
It's been such a huge success that, believe it or not, the last 10,000 spaces available in the program are basically gone, and we're only 3 months into the year. So we've already got people going onto lists hoping that some won't go through, and they may get a chance at a spot. But if really you're one of those people that was hoping to get a 5% deposit loan and avoid all that mortgage insurance, you may have to wait to see if the program's expanded or extended again.
Yeah, okay. Alrighty, and the other one is home builder. So this is not only available for people who are building, but also for people who are renovating. But the difficulty with that is that it has troubling deadlines, doesn't it?
Certainly, timing is a big issue. The government's designed that program to put a lot of builders and tradies to work quickly. What that means is you need to go to contract on a property by the end of this year, by December 31st. So that's one requirement, is quickly get your contracts done. The second one, which provides a lot of uncertainty, is that the building work itself must start within 3 months of that. Can be difficult. The builder may have too many projects on, the land may slip, you may run into council approval delays. They do give you an additional 3 months if you can show that the delay was not due to the actions of the builder or to your own actions. So there is a little bit of flexibility in there, but still our general feeling is a lot of people that think they're going to get this $25,000 home builder grant are not, and they're going to be quite unhappy when that happens.
Why is that? Because the builders just can't cope with the amount of work. They were, like, you already know that some people aren't going to make the deadlines.
And the land developers themselves, because this land is not yet registered. We get estimates from all the land estates we're working in as to when the land might register, and they may be telling people it's November. What happens if it slips to January or February? You've now missed the contract deadlines for the grant, and it really is beyond your control.
So would that be then a condition where, I guess we don't know until it happens, we don't know whether, that would be like an acceptable kind of delay?
I think a smart buyer might try to put something. Don't have very much power of negotiation with these large companies, so you're probably going to be told no and take it or leave it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yep, okay. And so just in a little bit of a snapshot, I was coming to you with a little bit of a deposit, and I wanted some help from you. What would you be able to do for me? Or what would your process be?
First we would need to know what was your budget and what price level of property you could afford. So you need to either be working with a broker, or we need to have you go sit down with one right away, and we can come up with those numbers. So that's a starting point. And if you're out looking at properties and you don't know what your budget is, you might be wasting your time.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And so once we've got our budget, and would you want people to have pre-approval, or is it too unreasonable for?
It's a bit of a mix. Some brokers will still do pre-approvals, but others will tell you that they're really not worth the paper they're written on.
Yeah.
So it really is kind of case by case in terms of how your broker feels.
Yeah.
But you do need to have some certainty over the numbers. So
Yeah.
we'll talk to brokers, and good brokers should be able to give us some relative certainty about what their client can afford.
Yeah, okay. And so once you've got your budget, what's the next step?
I think then we start looking at areas that you can afford around Sydney.
But you cover off other areas as well, don't you? You cover off Hunter and...
Oh, certainly. We're active nationwide, so we are sourcing properties in regional areas like Newcastle and up in the Hunter Valley. For somebody that has a job that can work remotely, they can look at going to build a much cheaper property and live within 2 hours of Sydney. So there's lots of opportunities for people to do that now.
Yeah, but you might get someone who's actually living in Brisbane or living in the Hunter, and they might want to buy something brand new. Yeah?
Yeah, oh certainly. Up in southeast Queensland, I would say that's our hottest market at the moment. So much so that there are stories going around the press this week about people camping out at land sales offices. You remember that from 5 years ago, I think, when people used to camp out in Sydney?
Yeah.
It's happening again. And it's because of these grants and there being so little land being available.
Yeah.
People will do just about anything to get a block of land where all the grants apply.
Wow. Gee, I didn't know that was going on. Okay, so we've got our approved, roughly got our budget, so we start to look at different areas, and then do you look at different property types, or how else do you help?
One is the estate itself and location, so because we're working across many areas in the states, and these suburbs will often know what's the best estate in that area, what has the best schools, what's near a shopping center, and a lot of people don't have that amount of time to go and drive through all of these areas and understand them themselves. So we can quickly help them get a short list of areas to look. I did that last week with a home buyer, and they spent Saturday driving all around southwest Sydney and went into several estates and liked one very much that I had told them about. And they bought a property in there. So
excellent.
Yeah, good for them, and it was at a good price too.
Oh yeah, okay. And then, so once we decide on what we're going to buy, do you manage people through the contracts, or what happens there?
The first thing we want to do is get the property put on hold. So in the new property space, they'll typically use an expressions of interest process. You might have to put $1,000 down and submit a very short 1 or 2 page form. And that goes to the builder and developer, and the property is reserved and put in your name. That kicks off a process where contracts are sent out. Because you're building a property, you're going to get both a build contract and a land contract. For our clients, we're there to coach them along the way. For many of them, this is the first property they've ever built, and we do this for sort of a living, so we can answer their questions, provide them with some support, maybe help them with a negotiation on some points.
Oh yeah, okay. Alrighty. And typically how long would it take to build a property, do you think?
I would say it anywhere between 6 and 9 months, depending on the area and the type of build. For sort of a simple house, and where council's not too backed up, it may be done in a shorter period of time.
Yeah, okay, alrighty. That's good. Then again. Alright, so wrapping up then, is there anything else that you would like to mention?
I think it is important that home buyers are looking at existing properties in this space as well. We focus today on new properties, and a lot of people like the new factors, new appliances, everything shiny new. But in many of these new suburbs, you should be also looking at the neighboring suburbs, maybe for an older property on a larger block of land, which is an area I know you spend a lot of time in, Deborah.
Don't get me started, Scott. Okay.
And there's always the possibility for a first-home buyer to buy an old place and fix it up as well. It really boils down to what your personal interest is.
That's right. Okay. Okay, well, thanks very much for watching. If you would like to make contact, of course you can contact me through the propertyfrontline.com.au, and if you would like to contact Scott, we'll have his contact details in the box below. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.